Hi, I'm Christine Herman of Herman's Quality Meat Shop in Newark, Delaware. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about oxtails and some of the delicious recipes to make with them. Are you ready? So what I have in front of me is what we refer to as an oxtail. And long ago and far away, we actually used the tail of an oxen. However, now we use the tail of a steer or a calf. And this happens to be a tail from a steer. And this is how we get it in. I'm really excited to show this to you because you don't get to see this very often, I'm sure. That is a large portion of the tail, and you can see the joint and the bone, and then we'll talk about the pieces that are cut in just a minute. So oxtail, as we refer to it, again, even though it's from steer, is a awesome underrated piece of part of the animal, I should say. And I'm just trimming off a little bit of the outside fat while we chat, or I chat with you about this. And something that, again, not too many people are really familiar with unless you are from the Caribbean or from South America or possibly even from China. Those are some of the major ethnic places that this particular recipe is, this particular piece is used for various recipes. So it might not be part of your repertoire of cooking, but you might just want to consider this at some point. So what I've done is I just trimmed off a little bit of the outside fat just to clean it up a little bit, because this is actually a fatty piece of the animal, as you can see, and that is partially what you want because it helps to give your stock and your recipe a lot of flavor. And I've said this before, that the flavor's in the fat. Although a lot of people kind of shy away and they're like, ooh, I don't want the fat. But that's where a lot of the flavor is. And when you braise and slow roast oxtail, you get a very rich broth, a very gelatinous broth because of the collagen and the fat and the flavor that you get from the bone also. And what we do is we slice it. Typically we slice it at the joint, which is usually about 1 inch or so. Some of our customers like them thinner, some of them prefer them thicker. And then you have these beautiful cross sections here of slices of the oxtail, as you can see what that looks like. And it exposes the bone, and that is where that delicious marrow comes in. And you can see right down to the teeny tiny end what that looks like. How adorable that is, right? I know it's kind of a weird word to use when you're referring to meat and bone, but just the same. It's just this tiny piece of bone, but this meat around it has an amazing flavor. And it is awesome for, as I said, slow roasting, soups, stews, or just making your own bone broth. And it is excellent served also with red beans and rice. And one of a very simple recipe that I'm happy to share with you is in some hot oil you braise the pieces, and then you add some red wine, some beef stock, some onions and garlic, and saute all of that, and then put your pieces back into your pan. And then you can either put it in the oven or crock pot, slow cooker, and just let it cook with salt and pepper and some rosemary, and just let it slow cook for about 3 or so hours. And then you have this rich, delicious broth, as well as these little amazing pieces of tender meat. So that red is actually the meat, and it is very tender and very soft and very flavorful. So it's really very simple and very delicious. And I've talked about in a previous recipe, or previous video, about a recipe using some of these oxtail pieces to make your own beef bone broth as well, and that's certainly an option. And you could even just include a couple pieces if you were making a beef stew, so it has a lot of versatility rather than just using it for exactly what it is as a solid recipe, as I mentioned, but just simply enjoying it the way it is. I challenge you to give it a try. Thank you. Okay, so my kitchen tip today with this video is a very simple one, and we're going to call it refreshing and reorganizing your kitchen countertop. And we're going to talk a little bit maybe about your cabinets as well, but I want to talk about your countertops because I personally do not like a disorganized or a cluttered countertop. I like things neat, I like things clean, I like things pushed back so that I have space to work, so that I can put a cutting board down, I can put a bowl, I can have somebody help me and we're not bumping into each other, and we have room to work, room to spread out with whatever food we're making, and we're not, again, bumping into each other or reaching over one another because there's other things in the way. So for me, one of the things that's really important is having things, tools and equipment that I use regularly in my kitchen handy. And something that I like to use, and again, because I don't like things on my countertop for quite a while when I set up my kitchen, is I had a drawer just for my utensils. And that became annoying because they were all just kind of piled on top of each other. So I decided to buy some containers like this one to hold my utensils. And then I also came across this little jewel, and you might be looking at it saying, oh, that's kind of old and ugly. And it is, it's loved, and this was from my mother and father-in-law's kitchen, so it's very special to me. However, I get to use it and I get to see it every day and think of them as I cook. So you don't have to buy something. You may have a container or a vase or something that you can use that may or may not have a memory associated with it. However, but it becomes functional at the same time. So for me, I use this cute little pitcher just for my spatulas and my whisks. I have a couple little different size whisks, and I only brought a couple with me today. And then this guy here has my other spatulas, these guys, and you've probably seen these in a different video, and some spoons. And I have another one that has my fork and other things in it. But this helps me to keep everything organized, and I can just reach over and need the ladle, and I can grab it and go. And then when it's washed and dried, it has its own place back where it belongs. And I like that. And I like, because I use them all the time, they're always clean. They're not, just because they're sitting out doesn't mean they're getting dirty, dusty or whatever in the air, because I'm using them and I'm constantly washing them. So that's really helpful. I also want to mention that if you have a blender or another appliance on your countertop that you're not using regularly, maybe consider moving it or putting it somewhere where you're going to use that space somewhat wisely with another. For me, I use a juicer every day. So I keep it out on the counter. It's tucked away, but it's always there, it's always handy. I make it accessible, I use it, I clean it up, and I tuck it away again. But it's always right there, because if I put it away, I'm not going to use it. But if I have something out that I'm not using, it's taking up that valuable space. And I kind of challenge you a little bit. You're probably wondering, well, yeah, I've been in my kitchen for all these years, I don't need to reorganize my kitchen. However, let's go back to the term I used, refreshing and reorganizing. Open up a drawer, look at a cabinet. What are you using? Am I still needing this? Is there somebody else maybe in the family or a friend that could use it instead? Or I reach for this all the time. Why do I put it away every night? I keep a cutting board on my countertop with my salad bowl right on top of it. And it's there. Every night when I come home and I'm ready to make my salad, I grab it, set it up, and I get started. Why should I put it away? Because I know every night I'm going to make myself a salad in that bowl and with that cutting board. And it's right there and it's handy. And then I reach for my other tools, and I have my knives in a drawer. We'll talk about knives another time. But anyway, they're nice and special, set aside, and I always put my knives away because I don't want them to sit out and take any chances on somebody getting hurt or them getting nicked or fall, because you're in your bare feet. You never want to drop a knife anyway, but just something to think about. So that's what works for me. See what works for you. And if you are particular about your countertops, if you don't want to take a chance on having something scratch them, you could always put little pads. I actually have a little pad on these that came off, and you've seen the little furniture pads. I know that sounds silly, but then you can slide your utensil or your container or your piece of equipment, appliance that you're using across the countertop because it's got feet on it. And that's important to me. It may or may not be important to you, but that's what works for me. And again, every once in a while, I'll kind of regroup and I'll look at my kitchen, I'll look at my countertops, and I might just move something ever so slightly that makes sense. And your family's changed in the past 5 years or 10 years. So make things a little more convenient for your family or yourself now than when it was before. So just a little something to think about. I hope that was a helpful tip. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye. Okay. All right. I would like to challenge you to try something that may be out of your comfort zone. Try an oxtail recipe. See if you can find it. If not, you know you can find it here at Herman's because we have it. And we can get it for you if we don't have it in stock at that moment. You can always call ahead, send us an email, or order online. But oxtail is a very simple recipe, as I've mentioned earlier. Onions, garlic, red wine, beef broth, low and slow, crock pot, and enjoy. Remember to subscribe to this channel, give us a thumbs up or two, and become part of the Herman family. Thank you.